So how do you want to start this? Should we start from the top since it's probably less exciting as you
Yeah,
it's more
let's start from
exciting
the
as you
top,
get
'cause
down?
I think we definitely know who our top two are. I don't know if they're the same order, but I think we know who our top
It's
two
the same exact disagreement probably that we had when we did the last discussion.
The recruiting ceiling one, yeah.
I think Alabama should still be number one.
Because of
I know
Saban?
that Georgia has won back-to-back championships, but I don't know that they are the undisputed king of the sport, and I am convinced that Alabama will win another one. And once they
I'm
do,
with
it'll
you. I
revert
think
right
Saban's
back.
got one more in him,
Yeah.
but I was on Unnecessary Roughness, and Brandon Walker asked me, can Kirby be Nick Saban at Georgia? Can he put
One
up
day.
those kind of numbers? Listen, they're second and 26 pass away from Kirby already having 3 national titles at Georgia. Like, it can happen. And it is as Nick Saban predicted. It's the craziest thing because Nick Saban predicted his own nemesis, essentially, and helped create his own nemesis because Kirby was working there. So
yeah, and I think that like it's okay to think that it could happen or it will happen. I don't know if what Saban has done will ever be duplicated, especially now that winning a national championship got even harder with the expanded playoff. Well, maybe easier. I don't know. Maybe it's the same.
maybe easier if you got a roster like Georgia's.
Yeah. But I don't know that has happened yet. So I'm still holding on to Alabama as the top program in college football. I don't know if that's upsetting to some people, but I think it's rational.
I don't think anybody other than Georgia fans would get upset about that. I think that's perfectly reasonable. I also
But
think
did you make the jump?
Yeah, I got Georgia number 1. Yeah. But I've been, again, I put this all back on Nick Saban because he's the one who said this for years, that if Georgia ever got the right guy, it's over. And that happened. So Georgia 1, Alabama 2 for me. Now we get to one. I think we're in a situation where I think we both probably have the next two are the same schools. And I don't know the order. And I struggle with
I don't know that they are going to be
too.
the same schools.
Oh, okay. Now we're talking.
Well, the number one struggle here as big Buckeye homer Ari Wasserman is where to rank Ohio State in respect to Michigan. Because
this is the question.
This was going to set the tone for the entire list. And I had a really hard time with it. Okay. So like if I am being frank, which program do I think is better?
Come on, Buckeye homer.
I still think Ohio State's football program is better, right?
Homer. Who's won the last 2 games, Ari?
The last 2 games are Michigan.
Oh, there we go. That's why I have Michigan number 3. Now, could Ohio State jump them by beating them this year? Yeah, absolutely. But I have them 3 and 4, and it is essentially a tie. It really is.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing that made it harder for me is that nowhere else on my list did I take head-to-head results into the thought process. And nowhere on the list did I take conference championships as the end-all be-all.
Right. And I'm not necessarily taking conference championships. The head-to-head in this one, just because of the dynamics of this particular head-to-head,
and that's
basically puts you in the playoff.
And I don't lose any sleep by flipping them. But I also took into account that Ohio State was likely a field goal away from winning the national title last year. And even with the 2 down years that Ohio State just had losing to Michigan, or maybe not down years, good teams that was just beaten by a better team, Ohio State still was on the doorstep of doing something that Michigan still seems way further away from doing. So like from that standpoint, I don't know if I truly believe, like, I think that you could say that Michigan claims to be the owner of the Big Ten right now and like get on board with that. But if my life depended on it, or you gave me ass juice in my neck and you said which team will win a national championship first, which is kind of what I'm thinking when I'm thinking of the Sweet 16, then I don't think I would pick Michigan.
Can I say something slightly controversial? Because I actually think
how about you be the guy for once? Yeah.
After Georgia and Alabama, I think we've now entered the realm of flawed teams. Like
all of them, yeah.
Yeah.
And like listen too, like here's
Ohio State's defense doesn't get significantly better. They're not winning another national championship for a long time. Yeah.
If Ohio State has another year like this and signs, and this is crazy because, like I said, the tone of the program and the way it went, you do know how close they were to potentially winning a national championship last year. That's how funny this whole thing is. But if Ohio State loses to Michigan again, and misses the playoff again, they made it, but misses it again like they did in the 16 or 17 and 18.
They're going to make it in the 12 team, but yeah, they could.
But Ohio State could drop from 3 to 8 or 9 or 10 on my list. Like I think they're in very shaky territory, like because they are not trending upward.
If the defense proves to be unfixable under this current administration, and it's interesting because we've had this discussion about Lincoln Riley and his philosophies. We've not really had it about Ryan Day, though. I talked to some players about it before the Peach Bowl because I was trying to get kind of what does Georgia do on a day-to-day? What does Ohio State do on a day-to-day throughout the season? Georgia, much more physical throughout the season. It shows up on the field. Now, Georgia's defense got pretty shredded by Ohio State's offense, but that's how good Ohio State's offense is. Ohio State's defense, not great against the good teams.
And they did the thing
played.
that you think that they have to do, and that's go get a defensive coordinator from a different system and pay him a boatload of money to change.
And Jim Knowles had been fantastic the previous year at Oklahoma State with not a bunch of NFL players. Malcolm Rodriguez turned out to be an NFL starter, but not a ton of NFL talent necessarily. He's got more now, but I don't know. They've got to fix that part of it. And perhaps the discussion we had about Lincoln Riley at the end of last season needs to be had about Ryan Day if that doesn't get better.
Well, I think too that people will say I'm a homer or I'm an asshole when I talk about those two things. But the thing I want you to say out loud is you think that Michigan is the third best program in college football right now, because that's what you just said.
Yeah, I'm okay with that. I am because it felt like the 2022 version was better than the 2021 version. I don't know if they'll take another step forward, but if they do, then I feel very, very comfortable in that.
And that next step forward is the biggest step they'll have to take.
Right, because then it gets them into the Alabama and Georgia territory, which I do think that's a bigger step than the team I have at number 5. The teams I have at 5 and 6 can take that step more quickly. One's already been 5. Well, they both already been there, actually. I have LSU at 5.
Okay. I didn't even reveal my number 4 yet, but LSU is my 4.
Okay. All right.
And LSU is my 4 because that program is rock solid. It has won a recent national championship. I understand the circumstances of that championship were pretty hard to duplicate, but it existed. It happened. You can't take it away.
Right.
Also, they have Brian Kelly, who, honestly speaking, is the reason why Notre Dame is probably still relevant today. They were at a really shaky point.
I had a hard time figuring out where to put Notre Dame on this list because it was basically a leap of faith on Marcus Freeman because their
LSU was hard.
Brian Kelly based.
LSU was hard because Michigan has made the playoff in back-to-back years, and LSU has not. But also LSU had probably a better season than we anticipated. They recruited very well, and their coach has a proven track record of not only being good in building programs, but making the playoff too. Also take into account that they are recruiting at a much higher clip, because I took recruiting into account here. Because you're also springing a little forward. Michigan's class last year wasn't very good.
Right.
So,
I think portal recruiting matters too, and I think Michigan,
and they're very good at that, which is why Michigan's number 5 on my list.
Yeah.
And if you think about the steps that it took, if we would have done this list before they made the playoff 2 years ago, Michigan might be in danger of being at the bottom of this list or not on it at all, and they're number 5 on mine.
Yeah.
So I personally believe that there is a certain fraternity of elite level programs in college football. The two that are the president and the vice president of that frat are Alabama and Georgia, and I think that Ohio State is probably the closest program to that than any other team.
But
because they lost to Michigan, that doesn't go away.
LSU, from a personnel standpoint, can get there quickly.
And if you look at LSU's personnel and other teams on this list that are probably ranked below Michigan, Michigan has a further step or a further journey, as you mentioned, to get to that point. So, to make them the third best college football program in the country is a little bit of an overreaction to 2 regular season wins when they haven't won a playoff game.
I'm just like the AD who hires a basketball coach because they made the Sweet 16 because they had one good weekend.
And I don't even know if you truly believe that they are the third best program in college football.
I have a heart. If you'd asked me this last year, I'd have said absolutely not. No chance.
But consistency does matter.
Exactly.
And that's why I put them at 5. 5 is a really good place for them.
I'm not fighting you on that. I'm fine with that. I knew I was going to get some heat for having them where they were. I don't mind. It's fine, because if I'm wrong and they take a step back, then I'm wrong. But if they do take another incremental step forward, I'm going to feel pretty good about where they are. So
yeah, if they do take another incremental step forward, that means beating Ohio State again and winning a playoff game.
exactly.
And if that happens, then I switch them in the beat of a heartbeat.
Yeah.